Okay, let's talk about what haunts me every single day is the thought of I have wasted my potential in life. I've recently decided I was freaking wrong. So this is the story of an overeducated, underemployed woman who's finally stopped apologizing. So I used to be so caught up in, oh my gosh, all that education, all that effort, wasted potential. And this is where I ended up. So that thought really, quite frankly, haunted me. So I got my master's degree late in life at 47. I had been let go of my job. My job was eliminated in 2009. And I just was so lost after that. I decided to pivot into something completely new, psychology. So lo and behold, without thinking too much about it, I got a master's in psychology, thinking that would be so fabulous. And it is. And I do teach as an adjunct, but the path wasn't really what I thought it was. There really was no potential to be tenured or to teach full time. I didn't have enough experience in the field, yada, yada, yada. And at that age, finding a job is much more difficult. Let me tell you, anybody over 40, 50, it is very difficult to redefine yourself in the career world when you're an older adult. And so frankly, that left me feeling embarrassed. Like, you know what? I probably should have done more. I got it wrong. But then I realized that's the voice of regret. And I'm not going to live with it anymore. I took a different path for many, many specific reasons. You know, the first big reason was I took a few years to stay home with my son, who was really struggling at the time with school, with his identity, with who he was, social anxiety. And so I really believe those years I planted some really good seeds. And I have proof of that today. So no, I don't regret it. But you know what? We all have regrets, and it's just not something that's very productive to live with. So instead of feeling like you missed the path, regret is when you're focused on the past. It's about identity. It's about kind of feeling bad about the version of you that you thought you'd become. Well, who is where they thought they'd be? You know, we all have an idea of where we're going to end up in life. And this career path probably wasn't on my wavelength. But I'm here I am. You know, you don't really get the title recognition, the income, this degree doesn't match the picture that I'm experiencing today. And honestly, for a long time, I felt like I failed myself. I've done a lot of different things. I've done freelance writing, ghost writing, and I really liked that, and I had a lot of success in that, but it's really hard to keep that up full time because it's a heck of a lot of work. And now with AI, I'm not sure that's even really needed anymore. So I thought I needed to shift my perspective. I needed to say, you know what? You did not waste your potential. You just did things differently. And that awareness is my potential. And that resilience is my success. And my ability to sit with this decision and connect with you and talk about it, that is my success. So the moral of the story is not everything valuable shows up on a resume. So the typical societal view says that potential means and achievement, status. You're a VP, good for you. Who cares? Productivity. But what if potential also means presence, stillness, stepping away from the hustle culture, living a life that actually feels livable? And just sit with that for a moment. Because choosing a life where your job isn't your focus, where you leave your job at work and you can take a deep breath and you can say, I'm proud of what I've accomplished today. And maybe that's enough. And I've decided that it is enough for me. So I've been carrying regret and I'm getting rid of it. I no longer am going to repeat the story that I should be further along. I'm not broken. I'm not behind. And I'm just seeing my life through a new lens. And through a lens that chose peace and presence over ambition. So it really requires a mindset shift. You realize that the path that you chose, look at how much you learned from that. Look at all the wonderful, funny life lessons you got from that. Because I stepped off the career path, I was able to spend a lot of time with my mother, who lived in Florida. And we would spend time driving back and forth, my son and I, and just having the time of our lives. And, shortly after that, she died of congestive heart failure. And those years that we spent with her were just so precious. And the years I spent nurturing my son, those were precious. And no one can take that away from me. And I really want to encourage anyone who is, talking about life regrets and taking the wrong path. What if it's the right path? What if it's the path that's perfect for you? So we're going to continue this conversation and minding the crap and talking about, comparison, ambition, talking about resilience and regret, and just being present and choosing peace over success. That's my thoughts for today.